Being human means we are of this earth. As we gather this morning, may we recognize and abandon the familiar attitudes and practices that do not serve the whole. We are who we are, and we have the opportunity to be who we want to be, to create a new inheritance for the future. May our thoughts, words, and actions in our daily lives assist in dismantling the paradigms of oppression and suffering. May we give thanks for our individual place in time and space, to our families and our relationships that touch and change us. May we give thanks to the wise teachers who help us remember how to be and the chance to make it so. Underneath and within these stories and histories is our humanity. Being human means we are of this earth. We are these waters. We are fire and atmosphere. We are sun and moon and stars. We are all that we see, and the wisdom is revealed by looking in between. Let us hold with gratitude these words written by Sweet Home Teacup as we enter into worship today. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. I am Dana Edwards, the summer minister serving this religious community with my colleagues, Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, Reverend Archie Turner, and Reverend Abi Janamanchi. Reverend Katie will be returning from vacation tomorrow, and Reverend Abi generously recorded a few segments for this worship service before heading to India. If you are new with us this morning, please let us know in the live chat if you feel comfortable and fill out the newcomer form that is included in the chat. Whether you are joining us today for the first time or you've been with us for a lifetime, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Wherever you are joining us from and however you arrived at our worship time together, you are welcome here. Whatever your beliefs, gender, identity, and expression, immigration status, or political views, you are welcome here. Thank you. Thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to worship with us today. If you've been attending for a while and are interested in becoming a member of this religious community, please reach out to Nicole Kazi, our membership coordinator. Our pastoral visitors are an extension of our ministry team. They are available in the chat to support you today. I have a few announcements. Those of you who are local to the Bethesda area, I invite you to join me this afternoon, August 1st at 3 p.m. for our second outdoor summer chapel. We will be exploring play as a spiritual practice, and if the weather changes, we will go indoors into a well-ventilated area with masks and be socially distant. On Monday, August 2nd, I invite you to join me and other faith leaders along with low-wage workers on Capitol Hill as we engage in a season of nonviolent moral direct action to protest the filibuster and demand voting rights and a $15 an hour minimum wage. To RSVP, use the link in the chat and feel free to email me and let me know you're coming so I can look out for you. If you're interested in volunteering in RE or finding out more about what's happening in religious education in the upcoming year, I would like to personally invite you to attend one of our RE preview sessions. To register for the first preview session, you can click on the link that will be located in the chat. Next Sunday, August 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern, join us as we continue preaching up the Potomac at UU Church and at the UU Church in Fairfax with Reverend Kristen Green. The Zoom information will be available on their website at www.uucf.org. As we enter this worship experience, this time of reflection and remembrance and celebration and community, we acknowledge that we gather as Cedar Lane UU Church on the traditional land of the Piscataway, Nacotchtank, Anacostia people, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have protected it through the generations. This calls us to commit to direct and tangible support for local and national Indigenous movements. We seek to protect the environment and restore Indigenous ways of life. We remember those who were enslaved and worked this land without choice or reward. We remember all who have gone before us and whose vision and labor created and sustained this religious community. In this spirit we gather. In this spirit we begin. Let us greet and welcome each other in the chat.
touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make, a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
Good morning. I am Babs, the worship associate for today's service. My pronouns are they, them, and as I read the Chalice Lighting words, I invite you to share in the chat where you are lighting your chalice from. May the light of the chalice connect us to each other as the garden connects us to the earth. May we find abundance in our daily lives as the garden reminds us that an overflowing bounty is always possible. May we find beauty and joy in our time together as the garden gives us the gift of visual beauty and culinary joy. Let us light our chalice together, knowing our community is connected, abundant, beautiful, and joyous. Amen.
If you plant a seed, words and paintings by Kadir Nelson. If you plant a tomato seed or a carrot seed and a cabbage seed, in time, with love and care, tomato, carrot, and cabbage plants will grow. If you plant a seed of selfishness, in a very short time, it will grow and grow and grow into a heap of trouble. But if you plant a seed of kindness, in almost no time at all, the fruits of kindness will grow and grow and grow and grow and they are very, very sweet.
Each time we gather for worship, we set aside time to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the heart of this religious community. Our hearts are with those whose primary spiritual practice is parenting in a pandemic. We hold in our circle of caring those who live with grief and chronic pain, with illnesses seen and unseen, with mental illness and addiction, those who are caring for a family member in ill health, and those who are experiencing job loss or financial insecurity. Within our Cedar Lane community, Karen Lerner celebrated her 90th birthday with family on July 5th. We hold in our hearts Josie Lerner and send her prayers for healing. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to others whose lives are lost and whose lives are impacted by violence and calamities in our nation and in our world. We hold in our hearts those faith leaders and low-wage workers who are participating in nonviolent direct action on Monday with the Poor People's Campaign on Capitol Hill as they demand the right to a living wage, the end of the filibuster, and voting rights for all. We hold in our hearts the Olympic athletes as they compete in unprecedented conditions. We hold in our hearts those at the front lines of climate change, those who are contending with drought and floods, famine, and rapidly changing ecosystems. We hold in our hearts the more than 613,000 people who have died from COVID-19 in the United States, the millions who are infected, and those who continue to risk their health and well-being to keep us safe, fed, and connected. Amen.
I invite you to find a comfortable, relaxed position. Allow your body to relax. Bring your attention to your body. Be grounded in your posture. It gives you the foundation for what's happening in your heart and your mind. Relax. Let go. Just be. Be here now. Take a deep breath. Slowly breathe in that wholeness. that life, that love that will not let us go. Release. Slowly exhale all that no longer serves you. Bring your awareness to that center within you. Settle into that center. Be fully present in the moment. Now, breathing in, breathing out. And as you go deeper within and settle into that space, let us hold these words from the Reverend Mark Bellatini. The chicory flowers are grabbing pieces of the blue sky again and anchoring them onto earth so we can marvel up close. The dignitaries have returned home to the capital, but the robins are still here locally, as well as a handful of sparrows. Plenty of dignity there. And the Gothic arches of maple and oak are exquisitely darkened by the week's rain. O world, you never stop. You always astonish. You hold nothing back. What can I offer you in thanks but a small portion of the silence that once gave birth to you, as once you gave birth to me? What can I offer you in thanks but a small portion of the silence that once gave birth to you, as once you gave birth to me? As we enter the silence that once gave birth to us, let us rise in body or in spirit as we grieve the loss of a loved one or mark the anniversary of a loss. Or please post the name of the loved one in the live chat. Let us enter the silence together.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Roots hold me close, wings set me free.
Each Sunday, we share the offering plate with a community organization in concert with our mission and vision. Our offering reminds us that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. We are grateful for your incredible generosity of our members and friends throughout this time, and support of the mission and ministry, and the many community organizations that we partner with in service of our mission. Our Share the Plate offering this morning will help support Congregation Action Network, or CAN. Created in 2017, the Congregation Action Network is an organizing network of congregations in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia region that provides support and solidarity to neighbors, friends, and family who fear being detained, deported, or profiled. In the face of hate and discrimination, the network is committed to showing love, compassion, and hospitality. Please support the Congregation Action Network by giving generously today and next week until August 14th. The Share the Plate offering will now be given and gratefully received.
After sustaining life for 1 billion years, our Earth is tired, on the brink of collapse. The burden is heavy, and Earth's children must lay it down. Here's the deal.
On the day when we lay this burden down, when we lay this burden down, gonna pick up a golden crown. When we lay this burden down, children, lay this burden down. The earth, she carries a heavy burden, we gotta lay it down. The word of warning we have heard, and now it's time to heal the sacred ground. Children, lay this burden down.
We can't expect the earth to restore us until somebody lays it down. Children, now the mission's been put before us. We gotta get up, you can't ignore us. Children, lay the burden down.
We gotta take it, break it, throw it on the ground. Children, we got to end this burden. Children, we got to break this burden. It's time to lay this burden.
To lay this burden while the earth grows increasingly tired. The fever pitch goes higher and higher. By desperation, we're inspired to put the burden down. Children, take the burden, put it down. Children, take it, throw it on the ground. Children, every burden that we share, gonna clean it out, gonna give us a children when we lay this burden down, when we lay this burden, this burden. Glory, glory, hallelujah, glory, 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 hallelujah.
Thank you so much, choir, for that amazing production. That was just so lovely and moving. In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer tells two creation stories, the story of Sky Woman and the story of Eve. Sky Woman is a story of the indigenous people of the Shenandoah and George. Sky Woman falls from the sky, clutching a bundle tightly in her hand. As she falls through the light, the geese rise to cushion her fall and carry her gently downward. They know they can't keep carrying her, so they ask the other animals what to do. The turtle says he can carry her on his back. The animals understood that Sky Woman needed land for her new home, and they decided they would find mud at the very deepest part of the water. First, they sent a loon, but the distance was too far. Then they sent an otter, a beaver, a sturgeon, but the ocean was too deep, too dark, and there was too much pressure. Finally, after all the animals had tried, the muskrat volunteered. The weakest of all animals, he dove to the very deepest part of the ocean to find some mud for Sky Woman. As the animals waited for his return, they got nervous because he was taking so long, and Sky Woman too was worried that he wouldn't return, that he was lost. And finally, he floated to the top, near death, clutching just a little bit of sand and mud from the bottom of the ocean. Sky Woman places the mud on Turtle's back and dances in gratitude. As she dances, the mud spreads and creates the earth. The earth is created, Kimmerer says, not by Sky Woman alone, but from the alchemy of all the animals' gifts, coupled with their deep and her deep gratitude. The bundle she carried from the sky is filled with seeds from the tree of life that she scatters onto the new earth and carefully tends until the world is full of flowers and trees and grass, and there is plenty to eat and plenty for healing. The story of Eve may be more familiar to many of us. This is one of the creation stories in the Hebrew scriptures. In this story, there is paradise created by God, the Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, God forbids the two humans from eating from one tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Of course, they're humans, so they're tempted by what has been forbidden, and Eve, according to the story, eats the fruit and tempts Adam to eat it as well. God, in this story, punishes them in several ways and drives them out of the Garden of Eden, out of paradise, separating them from the beauty of the garden forever, so that they don't taste the fruit of the tree of life. The very same tree from which Sky Woman had shared the seeds. From two different traditions on opposite sides of the earth, two very different ways of viewing the tree of life. Dr. Kimmerer goes on to say, and then they met. The offspring of Sky Woman and the children of Eve, and the land around us bears the scars of that meeting, the echoes of our stories. They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and I can only imagine, says Kimmerer, the conversation between Eve and Sky Woman. Sister, you got the short end of the stick. So what does happen when the offspring of Sky Woman and the children of Eve meet? Let me tell you. Let me tell you a story. It was my father-in-law who bought me my first herbs to plant for Mother's Day, the year my 15-year-old was born. He was from the island of Dominica, the Nature Isle in the Caribbean. His family in Dominica were and are indigenous to the land, predating Columbus. Lush with green all year round. That was his way of knowing, his way of being and moving in the world. When he moved to Long Island with his wife and young children, he built a greenhouse in his backyard so he would continue to be surrounded by green in the harsh winters of New York. His house was filled with flora hanging from tables and containers, his kitchen counter in the summer overflowing with tomatoes and zucchini, his deck practically overrun with herbs bursting from their pots. He was surprised, I think, and a little concerned that I did not grow up with this level of greenery surrounding me. I grew up in housing projects and in the inner city for the first 10 years of my life. Lush and green are not the words I would use to describe where I grew up. There were no gardens in my early life schema, definitely no kitchen gardens. So when he and my mother-in-law came to our house, their arms filled with herbs to plant, I wasn't sure I, as a daughter of Eve, was up for the task. I am not a gardener by nature or by nurture. Gardening for me is what my friend and colleague, Reverend Denise Colley, would call a pathetic spiritual practice. I don't even try to do it well. It is the one area in my life that I don't read books about. I don't subscribe to gardening blogs or podcasts. I actually revel in the fact that I don't have all the answers. In my garden, I completely let go of my need for perfection because it's so obviously clear to me that I am not in charge. The earth is in charge. The rain is, the sun is, the plants are in charge. My garden is where I lay my burdens down and reconnect with something greater than myself. And my pathetic spiritual practice is an act of resistance against white supremacy culture and perfectionism. It is a soothing balm on the scars created by the meeting of the offspring of Sky Woman and the children of Eve. Inspired by science fiction writer Octavia Butler and what she saw in the natural world, activist Adrian Marie Brown describes that something greater than myself that I find in gardening in her book, Emergent Strategies, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds. More accurately, she articulates what I bear witness to as I shepherd my little kitchen garden through the seasons. She calls it emergence. Emergence emphasizes critical connections over critical mass, building authentic relationships, listening with all the senses of the body and the mind. Emergence notices the ways small actions and connections create complex systems, patterns that become ecosystems and societies. Emergence is our inheritance. Emergence is our inheritance as part of this universe. And emergent strategy is how we intentionally change in ways that grow our capacity to embody the just and liberated worlds we long for. Gardening is one way that I intentionally grow my capacity to embody the just and liberated world that I long for. My father-in-law didn't know that as he was battling a long-term illness 2 years before his death, a millennial activist was giving a name to the way that he lived his life and how he, in a simple, unassuming way, taught me to live my life. So now I can pass his wisdom on to his grandchildren. His small act of coaching me through how to plant an herb garden started me on a journey towards deeper connections with him, with the earth, and with my children, who are now the primary gardeners in our family. In my garden, I spend most of my time noticing. I notice how wet or dry the earth is. I notice leaves that need to be pulled off and the tomato that's been pilfered by the gopher who lives near the fence. I notice that the soft, tender, slender tendrils of the cantaloupe vine are holding up an entire fruit. I notice the way the large elephant ear-like leaves of the cucumber plant shade and protect the fruit as it matures. I notice the way a raindrop curls and collects on some leaves, but not on others. I notice the smell of lavender and rosemary mixing in the breeze. I notice the way the sunlight shines through the pea pod and reminds me of nature's version of an ultrasound. I also notice the ways a garden is so much like a community of people, like, say, I don't know, a congregation of people. Those of us who were brought up knowing the story of Eve often think we're separate. We think we don't need help. We think we must have all the answers. Eve and Adam ate from the tree of knowledge, after all. But even a container garden is connected. Grow mint 1 year and you will learn that containers are illusions. My pea plant doesn't deny its need for water so as not to appear weak. It doesn't feel less than when I add coffee grounds to the soil for extra nourishment. When I water it, it shows its gratitude by spreading its leaves wider and reaching towards the sun. In my garden, I have no answers, just possibilities, experiments, maybe a hypothesis. I lost the earth wisdom of my ancestors in the concrete scars of the meeting of the offspring of Sky Woman and the children of Eve. I lost that earth wisdom when my ancestors chose whiteness over their Italian, Irish, and Jewish folk traditions. My father-in-law whispered some of that wisdom back to me. He hummed the song of Sky Woman in the way that he learned it from living with a deep, deep connection to the land. Now, I try to feel that connection and let it guide me as I work in my garden. I try to feel that connection and let it guide me as I work with this congregation. I try to feel that connection and let it guide me as I live my life. So, beloveds, I have a question for you. What would happen if we did lay Earth's burden down? Could we stop the narrative that caring for the world, caring for each other is a burden? Could we ask for and receive help with gratitude, lifting our chins toward the sun instead of feeling like a burden? Could we live in community together without having all the answers and instead use our senses to listen, feel, imagine, touch, and smell possibilities? Could we notice where beloved community already exists on this earth instead of imagining it as a land that we are forbidden to enter? How would the next hour of your day look if you chose an emergent strategy? If you embodied the liberated and just world you long for? Beloveds, we are not an either or. We are a both and. We are not either the offspring of Sky Woman or the children of Eve. We are collectively, in the United States, the scars of the meeting of both worlds. Each of us carry the wisdom of earth-centered traditions deep in our souls. Each of us who lives in the colonized world carry the story of Eve. And that, my friends, is our burden. To learn how to reconcile those competing narratives, to learn how to live in and rejoice in the both and. And so I will leave you with these affirmations. May your week be filled with lush greenness. This week, you will find places to live into the liberated and just world of your wildest imaginings. You will be open to listening to the earth wisdom of your ancestors and glimpse the rich and bone deep joy of beloved community, even if just for a moment. You will cultivate the garden of compassion that nourishes you and those around you. May it be so.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, breathe the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
These closing words are from my friend Tomo Hilbo. Spirit of life, Mother Nature, thank you for reminding us that we are intertwined in something much larger and beautiful and supported by it, even when we can't see the whole picture. Grant us the strength to disrupt our routine ways of thinking and the courage to let go of any sense of control. And may we all learn to love the thistles in our lives. Amen.
On the day when we lay this burden down, when we lay this burden down, come and pick up a golden crown. When we lay this burden down, 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 children, lay this burden down. The earth, she carries a heavy burden, we gotta lay it down. The word of warning we have heard, and now it's time to heal the sacred ground. Children, lay
restore us until somebody lays it down. Children, now the mission's been put before us. We gotta get up, you can't ignore us. Children, lay the burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, 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 hallelujah. Glory, 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 hallelujah. When we lay this burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, 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 hallelujah.